Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to use the Q&A tool built into ClickMeeting. Basically, on top of your chat box, you can see a question mark. If you click on it, you will switch over to Q&A mode, and your questions will be marked as a question that we will be looking at later. So, without further ado, I think we can take a look at what we will be talking about today. Basically, today's agenda is going to look like this. First, we'll touch on the changing landscape in mobile development, then problems with testing and pipelines, and then how Bitrise and Perfecto can help, and then a live demo integrating Perfecto with Bitrise. Our speakers today are going to be Tamás Bajai, a sales engineer at Bitrise, who has a vast experience as a full-stack developer, QA engineer, mobile app developer, and maintaining CI/CD pipelines for iOS. And what he does is he basically supports Bitrise and its customers with build issues and just helps to make enterprise customers onboarding with Bitrise seamless. And then we have Johnny Lamb, who is a senior solutions engineer at Perfecto. He's passionate about helping customers achieve digital transformation. He has a decade-long career in test automation, working for companies such as PokerStars and Caseware International. And what he does is he combines industry expertise along with knowledge of Perfecto to help enterprises establish QA strategies to accelerate feedback and improve quality. So, I think without further ado, I can actually give the stage over to you guys. Welcome, and stage is yours.
Thanks for the intro. So I'll start off by describing, first of all, what do we see in the changing landscape in mobile development? And just want to share with a lot of folks which are already familiar with mobile development, what do we see in the last 10 years or so? Like, what has really changed? And Tamás, this is speaking more towards the mobile development landscape. So I know you work with a lot of your customers, and they probably have all sorts of challenges. What do you see in terms of, like, when you're talking to your customer? What are the main challenges that they face?
Yeah, so one of the major challenges that current customers and current development agencies and teams are facing is supporting both iOS and Android platforms, for example. We see that more and more cross-platform development teams are forming within our customers. So they are switching to Flutter, React Native, for example, just to make sure that they can provide feature parity between the two platforms. Also, another, to be honest, sadly, quite sad circumstance is that most of the development teams were forced to work from home nowadays. So this is due to COVID, and this was a major hit on teams that were using on-premise Jenkins solutions, for example. So the development team started migrating to cloud solutions. This is also a really huge challenge that our customers are facing from day to day. And these would be two of the main challenges that we are seeing at the moment.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And I know that from the QA side, what we also do see as a change in the market is along with the changes that are happening right now with working from home, we do see that there's more and more device manufacturers, and they're coming up with more variations of these devices. So in the past, there were a couple major players. Nowadays, there's tons of different, let's say, Android manufacturers, and in each one of these manufacturers, they're also coming up with like 2, 3, or if not, 4 flagship devices. So we do see that from a testing perspective, along with the various framework that you have to support in mobile development, we do see that there's a lot of different validations that have to be done across different stages of the pipeline and across multiple different platforms. So I think a lot of the customers that we talk to, we kind of share some of the insights that we have, and we kind of figured out what are the minimum required capabilities that any shop would require in order to, first of all, um, develop mobile on mobile platforms, but also how do they embed this in a pipeline which is seamless and also give them validations along the way. So Tamash and I, we worked together. We identified quite a few things that a lot of customers are asking for. So I'll talk about two things that we see in QA in particular. So I'll start with the top right corner, where a lot of the developers that we work with, they have a lot of features, functionality they're checking into their app, but they want a way to be able to automatically validate across all the mobile platforms. So all the devices we talked about, all the variations of the OSs, including, let's say, legacy and also, beta versions that are coming up as well. And on top of that, on the bottom left corner, we know that developers work really fast and they tend to collaborate with a lot of team members. So we need the feedback loop to be really tight. So we need to be able to trigger a sniff test or a subset of tests really quickly, and also the results have to be coming back really quickly as well, so that we don't sit around just waiting for validations to happen.
Yeah, and what we also see quite often is that maintaining and managing a CI/CD pipeline and all the steps related to this is quite cumbersome and requires the developers or the DevOps engineers to quickly jump between different tabs, have lots of accounts to make sure that they can always deliver the desired quality products as well. Of course, this is what we are working together to solve and provide an alternative to. And another thing that is really common between CI/CD solutions is that the configuration can be quite hard to modify. So in these cases, it can take developers' experience and DevOps engineers' knowledge to be able to simply just modify a small thing in your pipeline. We are working on the workflow editor, and this is why Bitrise has the UI workflow editor to provide also an option where even project managers who wouldn't really have the coding knowledge to modify YML files can easily update their workflows and modify any kind of inputs there as well.
Yeah, and I can share a customer story that I have. So what I do run a lot of proof of concepts with a lot of customers, and I had a customer where they're looking to automate their flow as part of their pipeline, and they're using Bitrise. So normally, what I would do in the past is that I'd probably set up my own Jenkins server locally and add all the dependencies, all the plugins, all the configurations in order to get this pipeline up and running. But I actually tried it for the first time in Bitrise not too long ago, and I managed to achieve all of that within minutes instead of spending half a day just getting all that dependency spun up and running. So for me, I personally experienced it, the ease of maintenance, the ease of configuration, but also the templates and the smart logics behind how do we put together a pipeline. So for me, it was like an eye-opener altogether. So how can Bitrise and Perfecto help? So to tackle these the common problems that we see across all the shops that we work with, there's really four things that we do really well together. So in terms of Perfecto side, we support all the devices that you would want to test on. And in terms of execution, we'll give you the scalability to quickly execute and scale. So not only do we serve your current needs, but we also cater towards your future needs as your shop starts to scale.
For the Bitrise side, We provide support for all major mobile frameworks. This would mean that you would be able to build your Flutter, iOS, Android, Cordova, and other applications as well. We provide an option to even use later or previous Xcode versions as well, and of course the beta versions as well. And we provide a workflow editor, which makes it really easy to configure and maintain your workflows. But if you are more of a YML kind of guy, then you can also switch to the Bitrise YML tab and edit the workflow in a YML format as well.
So how does it all work together? So Tomasz and I, we work together to prepare a quick demo, but we'll illustrate a few things. So we'll go through the workflow. First of all, how do we create a job in Bitrise? Thomas will talk about what are the key benefits in doing so. We'll also talk about a step that we added. So we published a new step called the Perfecto upload step, which allows you to, at the end of the job, upload your APKs and IPAs to the Perfecto repository. As part of that job, after we have uploaded those artifacts to Perfecto, we'll kick off a test to run across a few different devices and execute in parallel to achieve a fast feedback loop. I'll round it off by just analyzing some of the test results that we gathered and I go through like what are some of the artifacts and what are some of the insights you might get from both platforms.
So let's start adding a new application. We have two options. One is using the web UI, and the other one is using the CLI. So this would make it possible to even add an application which Bitrise wouldn't by default have access to. And you would only need to install the Bitrise CLI to do that. I'm just going to stick with the web UI, and I'm going to select the Perfecto Bitrise webinar organization. There are options to create a private and a public application. I'm just going to stick with private and moving on to the repository selection. So I already have my GitHub account connected. I'm just going to select this repository and I'm going to add an SSH key. So if, for example, you have any kind of private dependencies, for example, Cocoa pods, or if you are using Fastlane Match or any other submodules, we would suggest manually adding the SSH key either to the given repositories, or you would also be able to use a machine user in these cases that have access to all of the required repositories. But I don't have any submodules or any other private repositories that I would like to use. I'm just going to choose master as the default branch right here. And the validation already started. So let's just talk a few words about our project scanner. During the validation phase, we are basically running a Bitrise build. So as a first step, we are activating the SSH key. And after that, we try to clone the repository. These steps would make it sure that the given repository can be cloned with the previously set SSH key. And there wouldn't be any kind of repository access issues during your builds. The next step is the project scanner. Here we are parsing the given repository structure and the files located in that to see what kind of projects you are working on. React Native, Flutter, Ionic, Cordova, iOS, macOS, Android, Xamarin, Fastlane. And you can see here that we found the Android project specific files. So the next step would be to fill out all of the required inputs as well. currently, just to provide some insight here, we are using the detected platform, but there is always an option to switch to manual where you can override this. I'm just sticking with the detected, and the project root itself would be the very first input. I'm going to simply use the app module, and I want to use all of the variants. You can see that by default, the Android Docker on Ubuntu 16.4 was selected, but there is an option to select any other stacks from right here. But I'm just going to stick with this one. Quick confirmation. And the next step is choosing the app icon. You can upload your own, or you can use the gathered one. And I am going to skip the webhook registration right now, but there's also an option to do that during the app setup. And this is the very first step. Bitrise by default kicks off first of all test build right away. So let's just move on to setting up the given workflows. So what we can do is we can simply just switch between these workflows, which are by default created by Bitrise, and we can simply just create a new workflow based on another one. Now, in this case, I'm just going to quickly remove the given steps which aren't really required. And I'm just going to add a Gradle runner step. And this step would be able to run a specific Gradle command. And I'm just going to copy the given Gradle task from another app. And basically that's all. And I'm just going to create another application, another framework, just to show you how you would be able to set up the Perfecto step as well. I'm just using our primary workflow as before. I'm going to use the Android build step. This step would be generating the given APK that we want to upload to Perfecto. You can see that the Bitrise APK path would be the output of the Android build step. And doing a quick search here in our step library, you can see that it's quite easy to add the Perfecto upload step as well. And the only other steps left here is to simply fill these environment variables in. I'm just going to use a couple of just a dummy key right here. Yeah. And when all of those environment variables are set and you updated the inputs right here, you would be able to start up the given build simply by clicking the Start Schedule a Build button and selecting either Perfecto Gradle workflow or the Perfecto step workflow right here. And this would be basically the setup of running your Perfecto tests on Bitrise and uploading your APK from Bitrise to Perfecto.
All right.
Thanks, Tamash. So I'll share with you my screen, and we can continue on the flow. So now that we have our build created, we have our APK generated. The next step is how do we utilize a Perfecto step to upload to Perfecto, and also how do we kick off these tests? So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you a process where you can tie in your automation tests and kick it off in Bitrise. Okay, so to continue on that flow, what I have over here is I have like a downstream job where I can kick off end-to-end tests. In this case, the app that we built is a simple expense tracker where you can log in and submit your expenses. What we will do here is that we're going to build this job over here. And in this job, basically what it does is that it links to, first of all, a repository in Git where it grabs all the test automation code. It then compiles it, assembles it, and it will subsequently execute it in the Gradle test phase. And we're going to be executing, in this case end-to-end tests across multiple Android devices. So you see that what I've done is that I've leveraged a lot of the steps that comes out of the box. So things like cloning that's out of the box, the Gradle runner to compile my test code and my framework. And in a second or so, you'll see that we'll also be triggering the test directly from Bitrise and hitting our demo server at Perfecto. And you'll see that what I've done is that I selected a dozen or so different devices, and I want to run the exact same smoke suite that I created earlier on. And I want to run it across all of these different variations of Android devices. So you'll see in a second, there will be some legacy devices, some of the latest and greatest device, and also different form factors and different OS versions as we go through this process. So as this is populating, you see that everything is complete, and now we're running these in parallel. So when I switch over to the Perfecto dashboard, so this is a dedicated Perfecto environment, I'm going to go into the analysis mode, and I'm going to go over and hit the live stream view. And you'll see that Bitrise is essentially sending the commands. And you see that in this simple Perfecto expense tracker, we're basically running the same smoke suite across some multiple devices. You can highlight what these are. This, for example, is running on a Google Pixel 2 XL. This, on the other hand, is running on Google Pixel 4. And you can, through this digital output, you can visualize on all of these real devices, like how that test is actually performing and whether or not there are any issues. You'll see that you do see some tests execute slightly faster than others. So with some of the later and greater devices running on a later Android version, that would typically run a little bit faster than some of the legacy devices, in this case, that we see. All right, so give it a second to complete, but once this has concluded, we'll get a link back in Bitrise. And what that link will do is link you back into a few different things you can do to visualize the test. So first of all, we'll navigate to our CI dashboard view. And in this view, you'll see that I have quite a few different jobs lined up over here. So each one of these rows would typically link to a Bitrise job. And what you're seeing over here are that there's various different dashboards and also these bar graphs over here. And these bar graphs are showing you live, like how many tests are passing and how many tests are failing across the same build. And I can click into these. This will give me the detail field. You see that 2 more tests is wrapping up. And quite a few tests are passing, but I also have quite a few failing tests. So as for developers, really what you're after is what are the detail artifacts that you can get out of it. So logs, screenshots, replays, but also if you're interested in why this is failing, you can also do a cross comparison between a failing test and a passing test. So in this case, you'll see that this test over here, it's failing, and it's failing on, let's say, an older device running Android 8.1. Whereas this test is running Android 9.0, and it seems to be passing. So what I can do is I can highlight both of them, and I'll click compare side to side. And what I want to do is I want to compare side to side every single step in my framework. So in this test case, I'm starting off the application, and I can essentially mouse over every single step. It'll give me a screenshot of whether it's passing, whether it's failing, and eventually get to like which point is actually responsible for the failure. What I can also do is now that I have this test and let's say I want to do a further inspection of it, I can click into the individual report, and along with the screenshots, what I also get is the detailed stack trace, any logs that are attached to it, associated, including, let's say, network logs, device vitals, device logs, or any other, let's say, custom logs that I have. But I also have this video that helps me visualize exactly at which point in the script this is failing. All right, and to summarize all of it, if you want to present and share this data with all of your colleagues, what you can also do is click on one of this, what we call our dashboard icon. And when you click into one of these icons, what this will present to you is through a heat map view on which devices are passing, which devices are failing, and how many tests are failing or passing on each one of those devices. So you can imagine, like, as a summary, all of the tests that you execute, you have a full detailed report, all the test artifacts that you need, but also as a team as a whole, you're all looking at the same single pane of glass in terms of where we should be focusing on and which bugs we have to fix along our pipeline and building of our artifacts. All right, so that kind of summarizes the live demo of how, first of all, we can build in Bitrise. In this case, Thomas has shown us how simple it is and how easy it is to start from scratch and to create your APKs. And the second part is really to execute all of these tests across multiple devices once we upload the APK onto the Perfecto repository and utilizing our Perfecto devices.
All right. Thank you, both of you. With this, now we open up the floor to the Q&A section. So everyone in the audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. We'll wait just a couple of seconds. But in the meantime, we can talk a little bit. Could you tell me a little bit about what kind of devices Perfecto supports, Johnny?
Yeah, absolutely. So we get this question a lot because we know that there are quite a few cloud vendors out there, and it's always hard to navigate the field as to why Perfecto and what does Perfecto support. So a little history about Perfecto. We started in the telco space, the telecommunication space, and the problem that we solved back in 2007 was really the smartphone was emerging, but there was also a lot of need for testing the old brick phones. So essentially, we started in that space, and really what we wanted to do was to help these telcos test on these devices. So one thing led to another. We started seeing a lot of requirements coming out for automating a lot of this. So with a lot of partnership with telcos, what we are able to do is that we're able to get devices really early, and we're able to connect it to our platform, and we're able to support a lot of these devices straight out of the gate. So in terms of device support, we do support, let's say, the latest and greatest devices. Typically, on day one, we were able to get, let's say, the latest and greatest devices in your lab. And in terms of, let's say, an OS support, because we have all these partnerships with a lot of our customers in the telco space, we're able to support, let's say, as early as like the second or third seed in terms of like a beta OS.
All right. We did get a question in the meantime from Hendy. It's about Bitrise and Perfecto, and it says, in my understanding, Bitrise and Perfecto will run parallelly. I recall that often integration tests like this take time. While tests executed in Perfecto, will the Bitrise worker wait until the tests are done? If so, I think the test will often hit 90 minutes, the 90-minute time on the Bitrise side. So any thoughts, comments on that?
I can take this one. So thanks for the question, Handy. So I think there's quite a few aspects of your question, but seems like the main question over here is the worker and whether it's still alive as we are running some of these end-to-end tests. So on Perfecto, what we can do is depending on the framework that you're executing this test on, so it could be, for example, an end-to-end script written in Appium, or it could be, let's say, an end-to-end native script written in, let's say, Espresso or XCUI or any other testing framework. So for Perfecto, what we do on our side is instead of, let's say, waiting a bit of time to get your result, we give you a lab that is scalable so that you can run more tests in parallel. And through, let's say, batching or sharding capability, you're able to achieve a faster feedback loop.
So if anyone has any other questions, please, now is the time. Feel free to ask. In the meantime, this is kind of a joint question, I guess. So, like, we talked a little bit about the devices that Perfecto supports, but like, are all platforms supported by Perfecto? Are all of them available on Bitrise as well? Boshi, we can't hear you right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, my mic was off. Yeah, so the step itself focuses on iOS and Android applications, so an IPA file and APK. But of course, Bitrise also supports other platforms as well. So, for example, on Perfecto, you would be able to test your web application as well. And on Bitrise, you would also be able to build your web application as well to simply deploy that for testing. And to do this, you would simply just need a couple of script steps and code build and deploy commands that you are also doing on your own machine in the terminal. And just as a side note here, our website team also uses this trick to deploy and build and test our website as well.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for that. And to add on to that, Perfecto, what we do is that along with all these, let's say, native apps, we also support all sorts of hybrid application and also responsive web application as well. So in terms of the platforms, we do extend beyond just mobile devices and tablets. We also have all these different cross-browser platforms available. There's around like 3,000 or so different combinations. When we combine, let's say, the OS version, the actual browser version, the resolution, and also location of these browsers. We also sometimes get requirements to extend beyond, let's say, mobile phones and browsers. We also have sometimes some IoT requirements as well. So we also support on a case-by-case basis. So some of the things that we support includes, let's say, Android TV. We see that once in a while. Some of the watches, we have some of those requirements. And sometimes these also extend beyond, let's say, Bluetooth devices as well. Some of these IoT devices that we do on a case-by-case basis.
All right. I see multiple people typing in chat, so let's just wait a second. But what we can do while they finish up is like Johnny to like people who might. Oh, but oh yeah, thank you, Kari. We got some very nice compliments from Kari. But in the meantime, for people who might not be that familiar with Perfecto, Johnny, if you had to, say what makes Perfecto so reliable, what would you say the biggest thing is?
Mm-hmm. There's quite a few things that adds up, but I think to start off with, if you look at this space, we really started in our mobile offering from day one. So the story about supporting the telco use case, that's where it really started. Whereas if you look around the strategy of a lot of the other lab vendors out there, they might be starting from the web space and then adding mobile devices as like a Me Too sort of thing. Or some of them might be starting from like on-premise solution and moving towards, let's say, a cloud architecture. Perfecto, we started thinking about cloud architecture really early. we started thinking about mobile devices on day one. So we have a lot of knowledge in terms of how we can manage devices. So nowadays what we do is that most of our clients are leveraging devices that are located in one of our 11 data centers. And these are like either tier 3 or tier 4 data centers. So there's a lot of like redundancies that are built in. There's a lot of, smart logics that auto detects, let's say, if there are, let's say, devices that are going down, we get those sort of, dashboard notifications from our side. And in terms of like getting those devices reliable, we have a dedicated NOC team, so a team of engineers in the data center, and their full-time job is primarily to look at all these devices, and if there's anything that are wrong with them, they'll go through the support mechanism to support all of these tickets and really to get those devices back up and running for you.
All right, awesome. Yeah, that was a pretty nice summary. Thank you. In the meantime, we got a question from Kumar. We have an existing integration between Bitrise and Perfecto using the REST API provided by Perfecto. Should we move to this integration? And if yes, what will be the benefits?
Hey, Ashok. Yes, so absolutely, if you're using leveraging Perfecto's REST API, that will absolutely continue to work. These steps that we're creating is intended to facilitate new users or existing users to make it easier to upload these artifacts to Perfecto repository. So if it is working for you, absolutely continue doing that. But if you have new teams that are onboarded and they might be struggling with configuring that REST API, so you can take a look into this step provider, which essentially wraps around a curl command that allows you to map out some of those parameters. So it makes it a little bit easier to upload to Perfecto.
All right. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you for the question as well. Just to round things up, Tamaj, do you want to also take the same question as we had for Perfecto? What makes Bitrise so reliable?
Sure. Yeah. So just to highlight it, basically, the most common issue with CI/CD and especially self-hosted CI/CD solutions is that you have to maintain a team to make sure that everything is up to date, everything is up and running. You have to have the Mac physical hardwares to be able to run your builds for any kind of iOS applications, for example. You have to make sure that you always have the latest Xcode if you want to keep up with the trend, and also prepare your applications during the beta releases of Xcode versions. But at the same time, you have to make sure that you also have the previous and stable Xcode version available as well to be able to submit to the App Store, to be able to provide a stable CI/CD solution for your application and your development team. What makes Bitrise reliable is that we have a dedicated team working only on maintaining the infrastructure. So our infra team is basically working on every day to make sure that our virtual machines are up and running, our physical machines are performing as expected, and they can bring the required performance on a daily basis, even on weekends. They put in place monitoring as well. So we have pager notifications, even if, for example, the wait times increase too much when new builds are starting. And we also have these same solutions for our website as well. And regarding our tools, the steps, we have dedicated CI jobs to make sure that all of the steps are running and functioning correctly. Oh, basically, that would be in a nutshell.
All right. Thank you. We did get another question in the meantime from Mehdi. How tight is the relationship between Bitrise and Perfecto? Do you have further plans together in the future, more steps, more integrations?
Yeah, I think we're pretty tight, right?
Yeah.
We had quite a few calls. But yeah, like in all seriousness, I think what we do see from, so first of all, from Perfecto, how this came about is really a lot of this is driven by you guys. So a lot of our customers are asking for a lot of these integrations. And from like a pre-sales perspective, Tomasz, you can chime in your experience as well, is that we do see a lot of times when we run into a proof of concept, or a customer wants to onboard either Bitrise or Perfecto, they give us a list of different requirements as to what are the tools they want to integrate with. So what we see from Perfecto's side is that we see Bitrise as a up and rising shining star in the CI/CD platform for mobile. So a lot of my conversation with a lot of my customers surround that, like what are the tools that we have to integrate with, but also like we do see more and more requirements that are telling us that, hey, you need to integrate with Bitrise in order for me to be successful in deploying Perfecto in my pipeline. So because of that, I have quite a few customers that have those sort of requirements. What we did is that we started talking to each other, and we're saying, hey, we have a lot of joint customers that want to use both of us, and we absolutely have to deliver. So as long as you guys have a lot of these requirements and continue to have a lot of these requirements, that will drive us to change our behavior as well. So we're going to work together to ensure we give you a good platform and a good integration so that you can not only develop, but also in terms of QA and verification, get that end-to-end feedback that you need in order to be successful. And what are your thoughts from Bitrise?
Baji, what do you think? That was beautifully put, Johnny. I'm curious whether Baji has anything to add after that.
Yeah, so from the Bitrise side, what we saw, and to be honest, what I saw during our preparations for the webinar and while the step was in the making, is that Perfecto brings lots of features to the table that would really ease up on the setup process of a CI/CD workflow. So, for example, running Appium tests and running your UI tests basically becomes a breeze when you're using Perfecto. And because of this, also as a sales engineer on Bitrise side, my main goal is to, and our company's main goal is to get our customers to a completely set up pipeline as soon as possible. And Perfecto provides a really perfect and awesome help in this process.
We did get another question in the meantime, another one from Mehdi. Also, we're currently looking for a mobile farm solution or considering the Amazon device farm up until now. What are the things that you do better than them? Why should we consider your solution?
Right. Yeah, so I can speak to Perfecto. We do have a lot of these questions, especially like navigating the cloud space for mobile device and browser provider. Like, why not Amazon, or why not another provider? I think to address this, it's really what is our core differentiator. A lot of our Perfecto infrastructure behind the scene, we also leverage some of these major cloud providers as well. But what we do is that we have this niche, and our niche is really, we not only provide infrastructure, but we also cater it towards automation. So if you think about, let's say, if you have like a raw, let's say, cloud provider, which gives you devices in the cloud, what you also have to do from your end is, first of all, configure your servers. If you're using Appium server, you have to configure, let's say, your servers, your grids. But there's a lot of piping that you have to, kind of like DIY stitch together. So what Perfecto does is that, along with just the infrastructure, we also have a lot of software IP that essentially, does the piping for you. So it's really like comes down to like a build or buy, decision, whether you want to just buy the infrastructure and, build everything yourself, or, you want to subscribe to a platform that does everything for you and you can just consume it as a service.
Yeah, just to add to that, this is also something that I previously saw when I was working on support at Bitrise. So there are quite a few questions regarding setting up your own UI testing servers, how you can run those in a CI environment, what would be the best solution. And this is why Perfecto is really awesome, that Perfecto makes it quite easy to set up all of this instead of putting together multiple scripts, going through the hoops from time after time, simply just to start up the given server or make sure that everything is pre-installed and everything is in place.
All right. Thank you, and thank you for the question, Lenny. Okay, we did get another question from Hendy. For questions like per user case basis about Bitrise and Perfecto, who should I contact?
Yeah, definitely. Shoot me an email. I will, I guess, enter my email through the chat or go through the team, and you can reach us directly from Perfecto.
And you can also reach us at Bitrise as well. So basically, either side is fine. We'll be able to help you figure out things as much as possible. So, okay, yeah, all right. So just to round things down, we do have another thing for the end of this webinar. If you do have any more questions, just let us know. We will still be able to answer them. But for the time being, we will switch over. We have a little survey for everyone. It's just 3 questions, so nothing too long. Just let us know what you thought, whether you like to hear more about the topic and that at another webinar. And if you want to reach out to us, or you want us to reach out to you and just show you a demo, then let us know at question number 3, and we will get in contact with you. And in the meantime, this is the end of the deep dive webinar today. So thank you everyone for joining. I will be posting a couple of things in chat. So don't forget to follow both Bitrise and Perfecto on social. You can see all the news that we have there. And if you'd like to know a little bit more about both of our integrations, check out the integrations that Bitrise has and the Perfecto ones as well. Thank you, everyone, for coming. If you have any questions, just let us know anytime. And see you at the next deep dive. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Tomasz, for joining us and for all the presentations. It was awesome.
Thanks for hosting.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care, everyone.
Take care, everyone, and see you next time.